Okay, this tutorial is for lesson 26E. As you can see, I've already drawn the object. Make sure you do the same. Make sure you pay attention to your layers. This should all be on the object layer. You should dimension it, and it should be on the dimension layer. All of your dimensions, mine are blue, and they're on the dimension layer. And then, of course, I've got my center lines on the center line layer as well. So make sure you draw it accurately. And again, now that we've learned paper space, you could draw this in model space. I'd rather draw it in model space personally, or you could be here on paper space, but in order to activate model space, you just have to double click inside of here, and now I can zoom in or zoom out, I can draw, I can do whatever I need to do. But again, personally, I'd rather do model space because it's bigger, and more importantly, I've been drawing using model space for longer than I have paper space, and I'm just used to it, and so I like the way to do it. And I generally use paper space when it's time to print things out. So go ahead and take some time, draw 26E. Make sure you dimension it. One thing I did notice on here is it looks like their dimensions only have 2 decimal places, and our class style is set to have 3 decimal places. So this will actually be some good practice for us to go ahead and change it. So again, I'm going to go in here to dimension style, which is right next to text style, dimension style. I'm going to go ahead and go to linear dimension, and you can see right there mine's on 3 zeros. So I'm going to change that to 2 zeros and click apply and click OK. And now all of mine went to 2 zeros, except my radiuses are still at 3 decimal points, and my diameters are still at 3 decimal points. So I'm going to go back into dimension styles. I'm going to go ahead and look at my diameter dimension style. Go to linear dimension, change that to 2 decimal places, click apply, and I'm going to go to my radius 1. It's on 3 zeros as well. Change that to 2 zeros. Click apply, click OK, and now all of my dimensions should have 2 decimal places, just like it does in the book. Okay? We are actually going to print this drawing out, so I want to make sure you have everything correctly done, so when you print it out, you get a perfect score. We are going to be using the big printer to print this out, so I don't want you printing out a bunch of different copies, because that printer uses quite a bit of ink, and it's very expensive to replace. So here's what we're going to do. Once you're done drawing it, you have all your center lines, everything's on the right layer, you have all of your dimensions done correctly, and again, mine all match the book perfectly. So make sure that you have gaps in between your extension lines, and it looks exactly like it does in the book. When you're done, go ahead and go to your paper space, and when you are in paper space, and I'm currently in model space because I can zoom in and zoom out, double click in paper space, and it kind of locks your viewport. And we're going to learn how to set this up and how to actually scale our viewport, so when we print this out, it is in the correct scale. So one thing you need to do is you need to go ahead and bring out your properties bar. So in order to do that, you can go ahead and go to Tools, and Properties is right there, or the shortcut is Control-1. And you need to be aware that when you double click in paper space, or I'm sorry, in model space, what scale it's at. And this right here is the scale of your model space. So currently it's on custom scale. If I want it to be on 1:1, I choose 1:1, and now it's on 1:1, and I can move this guy around and put it wherever I like. And notice, even though I moved it around, it's on 1:1. Now if I go in here and start zooming with my wheel, you're going to notice that when I click out of it, it's no longer going to be in 1:1 scale. When I go back in it, it now says custom scale. So I'm going to go ahead and go to 1:1, and I'm going to double click the wheel, and that changes the scale again. Go ahead and go to 1:1, and that looks perfect right there. So that's probably the best way to do it, is double click the wheel and then change this to 1:1, and it should put it in there so you can see everything. For those of you that might have done your dimensions in a way where you couldn't quite where it's off of this, maybe you want to put your dimensions a little bit closer to your object. So now that this says 1:1 right here, I'm going to go ahead and double click in the paper space or outside of the viewport, and it should lock this. I can go ahead and right click on this and I can check to see if it's locked, and mine is currently locked. And that is really about all I need to do. So, if you like to double click, just make sure that's one-to-one. That's probably not a bad idea. And then you can go here, and now you can double click on this, and this is essentially what it's going to look like when it prints out. And of course, you can zoom in and check out what all this stuff will look like before it prints out. But that's pretty much good to go. So the biggest thing is making sure that your viewport is scaled one-to-one. And again, you can just double click in here. There's one-to-one right there. So now I double click out of there and make sure that it's locked. And it is locked, so it cannot be changed. Okay, after that, we are going to go ahead and go to File, Print. And when we go to File, Print, if yours does not say Use Print Configuration, go ahead and check that. And yours may say, select, or yours may say default, and it may be something different. You want to make sure you choose 17 by 11, because that's the one we spent all the time setting up. And that should have the HP DesignJet 110, which is our printer we're going to use. It should have ANSI B. And again, my thing's all squished down here, so I'm going to try and get it to come back. And it takes me a little while here. There we go. So ANSI B one-to-one, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Sheet. I'm going to click on Landscape, and I'm pretty good to go. The last thing I do want you to do is, since this is using an awful lot of color, and the color ink cartridges are expensive, is we are going to change ours to monochrome. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Additional Options. Mine already says monochrome.ctb. I want you to change yours to monochrome as well. Yours might be on none. Please change that to monochrome so it only prints in black and white. Go ahead and click OK. And always, always, always go to Print Preview. That way you can see exactly what this is going to look like. You can zoom in and zoom out. Make sure that you have everything the way that you want it to be, and you should be good to go. Again, all of my dimensions I can easily read them. I've got my center lines, I've got my object lines. My title block is filled out correctly, although I probably should have called this, it looks like they called it Extra Practice. But it's fine to call it My Decimal Setup as well. Just make sure that it does say that this is drawing number exercise 26E, and of course the scale is 1-to-1. So that is what it will look like, and I can go ahead and press print. And actually, before you press print, you have to load the paper in the printer, and I'm going to show you how to do that in the class. So that's how you do lesson 26E, and we will print those out, and I will grade those, and I'll see you in the next tutorial, which will be lesson 27.